high above the endless Andes mountains. Hidden deep inside a dark rocky cave, a fragile newborn named Rufus entered a brutal world ruled entirely by survival. Blind, hairless, and trembling against the freezing stone floor, newborn Rufus searched desperately for warmth while the cold mountain winds roared outside the cave. Guided gently by his mother, the tiny fox crawled toward safety and pressed tightly against her warm body while soft squeaks echoed through the darkness.
Squeak! 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 Squeak!
Beneath the protective paws of his mother, little Rufus slept peacefully without knowing that danger was already creeping silently toward the hidden cave entrance. A sneaky grisson slipped through the shadows and moved slowly closer to the helpless newborn. Its cold eyes fixed directly on vulnerable little Rufus. The moment the predator prepared to attack, Rufus's mother rose fearlessly over her cub and unleashed a furious growl that echoed across the cave walls. Without hesitation, the protective mother launched a lightning-fast attack against the intruder, driving the dangerous grisson backward before it could reach her child. Unable to overcome the fearless defense of the mother fox, the frightened predator finally fled into the darkness while newborn Rufus remained safe inside the cave. Curled tightly once more beneath his mother's warm body, little Rufus survived his first terrifying lesson of life in the unforgiving Andes wilderness. As time slowly passed through the silent mountains, soft gray fur began covering the once fragile body of the tiny fox cub. For the first time, young Rufus opened his bright blue eyes and stared curiously at the dim cave that had protected him since birth. The growing cub stumbled clumsily onto weak little legs while his proud mother watched him take his very first determined steps across the rocky floor. Slowly, Rufus approached the glowing entrance of the cave where bright sunlight spilled across the cold stone for the first time in his life. The young fox stepped into the fresh mountain air and stared in awe at the vast Andes stretching endlessly beneath the golden sky. Curious and innocent, Rufus sniffed flowers growing between harsh rocks while learning to walk across the dangerous rugged cliffs surrounding his home. Then suddenly, a giant shadow swept across the rocky ground as a massive caracara eagle spotted the vulnerable cub from high above the mountains. The enormous predator folded its wings and plunged downward with terrifying speed while frightened young Rufus froze beneath the shrieking wind. A sharp talon sliced through the air only feet away from the helpless cub. And for one horrifying moment, it seemed the young fox would disappear forever into the sky. Out of nowhere, Rufus's father exploded across the rocks and launched himself directly into the path of the attacking eagle to save his son. Seasons passed through the mountains, and the once helpless cub slowly transformed into a lean and agile teenage fox exploring the harsh rocky slopes alone. Teenage Rufus practiced stealth among the boulders, stalking mountain mice and learning the instincts needed to survive in the brutal wilderness. But hidden high above the cliffs, another predator had already locked its deadly gaze directly onto the inexperienced young fox. A giant puma crouched silently along the ridge before exploding into a terrifying ambush straight toward teenage Rufus. Desperate, Rufus sprinted across the rugged mountain terrain while the massive predator chased relentlessly behind him. The young fox dodged boulders, slid through narrow rock gaps, and raced along deadly cliff edges while the puma closed in with unstoppable power. At last, Rufus found himself trapped between the snarling predator and a sheer drop into the abyss below. The giant puma raised its enormous paw to strike down the cornered fox. Before death could fall, both parents charged fiercely into battle to save their son. Father and mother attacked with unstoppable courage, biting and clawing at the massive predator while dust exploded violently across the rocky mountainside. Overwhelmed by the relentless defense of the fox parents, the wounded puma finally retreated into the mountains, leaving exhausted Rufus alive once again. Breathing heavily beside his battered parents, teenage Rufus realized survival in the Andes demanded strength, instinct, and endless courage. Years passed across the towering mountain peaks, and the frightened cub once hiding in darkness became a majestic adult fox ruling the harsh Andean wilderness. Now fully grown, Rufus stood proudly against the mountain winds with brilliant reddish-gold fur glowing beneath the blazing Andean sunlight. The powerful hunter roamed confidently through his rocky domain. Catching prey with lightning speed while surviving the brutal challenges of the mountains. One day, as adult Rufus prepared to enjoy a hard-earned meal, enormous Andean condors descended from the sky and surrounded him in a threatening circle. The giant birds snapped aggressively with massive beaks, but Rufus stood his ground and fought back fearlessly against the towering scavengers. Dust and feathers filled the mountain air while the courageous fox barked and lunged with fierce determination until the intimidated condors finally abandoned the fight. Victorious once again, adult Rufus remained standing proudly upon the windswept Andes, no longer a helpless newborn trembling in darkness, but the fearless master of the mountains.